Welcome, everyone. Good morning. We're here to talk all things Fluxnova. My name is Sean Walsh and I'm from Fidelity Investments. Okay, let's start with an observation made by Bill Gates. And he simply states that the first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. That resonated for this discussion. So with that premise in mind, having efficient operations, we can now look to business process management practices really to A, model, B, automate, and C, orchestrate end-to-end business processes. Really, business operations can now scale with little incremental cost. And the nice thing about this is you're now directly impacting business outcomes. So that's really the premise of this whole discussion. So over the next 20 minutes, we will talk a little bit about our journey so far with open source and this Fluxnova platform. We'll cover three broad topics. A, what is process orchestration? And where does Fluxnova as a platform fit in? The second thing is, why was this particular community formed? And how does FINOS help us with the neutral governance? And thirdly, we'll have a quick demo at the end. I would just say at the outset, if you have an interest in BPMN technology and process orchestration, that you might have an interest in A, consuming this platform, right? So there's a sandbox available. B, becoming contributors to this platform really helps you control your own destiny. Or C, become maintainers of this open source project. That really helps to amplify your voice within this particular community. So I'd like to start with a simple analogy. So here we have a stage full of musicians, but they are missing a music conductor. And this can lead to some level of disharmony. And I suppose the premise is that this is what exactly can happen if business automation is attempted without some form of process orchestration. You do lose the efficiency and the impact of having a truly connected experience that process orchestration provides. So here are some of the challenges to think about if you attempt to do automation without process orchestration. So today, business processes are quite complex. They involve many integrations and interactions with people across many departments. And really, the point is that fragmented automations can cause delays. And these delays can really happen because there is not a unified view of the process and you really lack end-to-end visibility. So if we take, for example, something that's quite common in the FinTech industry, which would be some sort of a customer onboarding journey where someone comes and wants to set up a new account, you can think of all types of things that happen in your back-ends operations. You're going to have some identity, becomes more complex if it's a corporation. You've got to identify directors. You got to think about PEPs and sanctions, AML, credit checks, etc. And if any of these automations are disconnected, you do lose the impact of kind of looking at that as a unified experience. So ideally, you want to have an end-to-end unified view of all of the moving parts. So this is where process orchestration comes in. It's like putting the music conductor really back into this picture. You really now have a single way to organize all of these moving parts. Everything should be running smoothly now in a unified way. And ideally, with your platform, you have end-to-end visibility across the whole business operation. Let's talk briefly about some of the values of applying technology and automation to your business operations. So today's FinTech world is changing all the time. You're navigating through lots of complexity with compliance and regulations. And really, you're continually managing lots of moving parts. And workflow automation with process orchestration at its core does enable consistent and efficient outcomes. It really provides the process framework and also a technology framework for you to work within. It provides a more deterministic and digitized experience and really keeps you on the digital rails. You also get to, depending on your use case, can do straight through processing, which is really advantageous for operations teams. So you can work with your business and operations teams to create models of the business workflow. And you unify that you collaborate between the business and your IT departments, and you provide that end-to-end visibility. And BPMN technology provides the framework to define and execute these processes. And really it's leveraging open standards like BPMN and DMN. So the BPMN 2.0 specification, basically. Okay, this leads us nicely onto Fluxnova. So what is Fluxnova? So Fluxnova is the new open source BPMN platform, and it's derived from the Camunda 7 Community Edition project. It is available in a public repo as of last month. This technology platform really provides automation and orchestration capabilities and really helps you accelerate your back-end end-to-end business processing. There's four main components. We have a modeler on the left, which is really, the modeler is where you design your models. It's available on right now as a desktop, Linux, Mac, Windows. The engine is where you execute. So you take those models, you deploy them to the engine, and the engine executes these processes. So you have BPMN engine, which is the actual model itself. You have the DMN part, which is really all the business rules associated with that particular operation. The third part is really the API layer. It provides all types of flexibility. It's very easy to integrate with the platform. It's very easy for the platform to integrate with many different internal, external APIs. And finally, the fourth component would be the monitoring UI. And really that's where you get to see how everything is running. So you have running processes, you can start them, you can stop them. You might look there to look for bottlenecks. You might look for insights. And thirdly, you might just look for, if you're having issues, that's kind of where you would go and have a central view to do some triage. So really that concludes, I would say, part one of the agenda, which is why we do digital transformation and why this Fluxnova platform helps us. So maybe now we'll talk a little bit about why this community came about in the first place. And really, I suppose the first part of the story comes from Fidelity Investments, which is Fidelity had been using the Camunda 7 Community Edition for many years. Lots of stuff in production. And Camunda 7 announced end of life as of last month. And the challenge with that is they've said, well, we leave the repos there, but the challenge is security patches, all of those things suddenly stop, right? So we had to take a look at that and say, what are we going to do within Fidelity? We probably knew it wasn't a unique challenge in the industry, right? So others that maybe have invested in the Camunda 7 Community Edition may be looking at the same issues. And that's where we looked to open source, FINOS, kind of really as a catalyst for innovation. And really this is where discussions kicked off with FINOS. And at the same time, NatWest were having very similar discussions. They were tasked with saying, how do you apply BPMN technology? How do you take open source, apply it to your BPM technology issues? So their OSPO said, why don't you go talk to FINOS? And FINOS suddenly became put Fidelity and NatWest together. And that was the trifecta. That was the seeds of two maintainers with FINOS providing that governance. And FINOS has lots of contacts in the banking world and introduced other banks. So I started talking to Deutsche, BMO and Capital One. That's where the quorum of 5 maintainers came from. So that's how all of this started. Not that long ago, to be honest. We've been moving fairly quickly. As Olivia said this morning, we now have contribution, adoption, collaboration. So that's really, really important for open source. The opportunities around avoiding vendor lock-in, community-driven destiny, promoting innovation, all of that is there. I would say collectively across all these banks, right? These are five big names. We've got hundreds and thousands of use cases, millions of process instances, either running in Camunda 7 Community Edition, earmarked for Fluxnova, or already moved to Fluxnova. So it's readily available. Again, Olivia talked about the neutral governance model this morning. Really, you can talk about, I don't want to repeat all that, no licensing fees, Apache 2.0 provides neutral governance. It gives longevity to the project. It's going to be around. We don't get to a situation where someone says it's open source today and tomorrow it's closed source. We're not going to support it. FINOS provide all of that for us. So again, the call to action is, help us grow. Really, request, contribute new features. And again, I'll go back to where I started. Do you have an interest in consuming the platform? Just try it out. There's a sandbox available. It's really easy to get it running. Do you want to become contributors to this platform? So you can kind of control your own destiny. And finally, maintainers of, and that really gives you a voice in the community, amplifies your voice in the community, I would say. There's going to be monthly maintainer calls. They've already started. So I think the first one there was a couple of weeks ago. I just touch on one thing very quickly, is that there's a positive byproduct of this, and we have found this within our own development community. Our developers have loved working in open source. Everyone's used to working within their own companies, their own policies, and their own IT systems. It's nice to be able to work across different companies, basically, developers working together. Developers have loved it. It feels different. It is different. It kind of opens everyone up to open source. And that's been very, very positive. But I would also say it's not all about developers. You need analysts, you need, product owners, document writers, people that want to help with marketing and websites and all of that. It really is a community effort. I'd also say for me personally, this time last year, I could not foresee I'd be standing here. This is open source, right? So, 12 months later, here I am. I'm not going to spend too long on architecture, other than to say on the left-hand side, we have the modeler. So that's where you can actually sit with your operations teams, and your IT can sit together and model your business flow in your modeler. Deploy that to your engine. There's also a task manager component, which is important, which is the human in the loop component. And the platform has an ability to, have a work queue, basically, for humans in the loop. Integrations, you can create all types of connectors. Operational reporting on the right-hand side, you can just send this out to, Snowflake, any data lakes you're thinking about for reporting purposes. I'll just mention state management briefly. You can pick your own DB vendors. State management is important, and anyone that experienced the AWS outage there a month ago or was impacted by that. It is nice. I guess you got two options. You either wait for that outage to clear up, or depending on your SLAs, if you've got disaster recovery, you move that to somewhere else, and you get back up and running. State management allows you to just do that very, very easily. So that's kind of nice. All types of things you can do with state management around logical, physical separation, depending on your tenancy and however you want to architect this for yourselves. But yeah, that's enough on the architecture. I think the use cases are limitless, to be honest. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. The use cases are just limitless. What do your operations teams do in your back ends, whatever FinTech you're part of, and you should be able to model it in some way. So we talk about customer servicing. So anyone that deals with customers and accounts, people want to change their name, change their address, just the usual stuff that happens, helping with trade, banking, etc. Third part really is I just want to, kind of conscious of time, just really want to get into the demo part. So what you're looking at here is a modeler view. This is the actual modeler component. And this is, if I step back, so over the last 6 or 7 years, Fidelity have leveraged BPMN technology to orchestrate thousands of processes. And we really want to provide a digital experience to our customers. We want everyone on the digital rails basically as much as possible. Fidelity is a major private US financial services firm, mainly serves the US market, and provides retirement planning, brokerage, asset management, investment advice, etc. So with this demo, you will see the concepts of Fluxnova come together for this common use case within Fidelity. Is that someone they just got married and decided they've got a bunch of accounts, they want to change their name. And this is a visual representation of a process that would do that. It's split into 3 parts. On the left-hand side, part 1, there's some validation around the identity of the person requesting it. Part 2 is putting the human in the loop that will actually review marriage certs and all that good stuff that might have been sent in by that customer. And the third part is everything going well, all the systems of record can be updated. Again, this may not be a simple API call. In our case, this could be 10 API calls, really updating many systems of record. So this alone can be quite complex. So really what we're going to show is a customer logging in through fidelity.com. I'm just going to play that video now. I would just mention very, very briefly, all these shapes are all part of the BPMN 2.0 specification. So there's all types of, message events, timer events, etc., and that they're all easily available to figure out what they all are. I'm just going to run a quick 2-minute, if it plays, video. So here's a customer coming into Fidelity.com. They basically are going to request a name change. They get married. They decided they want to update their accounts. So they're going to go and say, due to marriage, I'm going to request a name change to the Fidelity.com. And then they upload their marriage cert. And Fidelity.com has an integration now. This is the Fluxnova platform in play. The monitoring UI, it has instantiated a process. There happens to be 25 or 26 name changes going on here for different customers, but we're just going to concentrate on the one we've just started. So now that that name change has all this form data associated with it, the one that we just saw from the customer logging in. And then it goes to a human, an operations person, to review it. So they go to the task list, which is part of the Fluxnova platform. They claim that task, basically, and they're going to review it. So now they're looking at the form data associated that came in from Fidelity.com. They're also looking to see what documentations were attached. Again, you can hook this up to your own document management systems, etc. And they've decided there's something wrong about the image. It's grainy. I've got to go back to the customer. This is where the modeling is very important. It has resiliency. So it goes back on the digital rails. Automated messages go back out to the customer to say you're missing something. And that's all part of the modeling. We don't really have to do anything with that. So we're going to see a notification go back out to the customer to say, you've got an issue with one of your documents. Could be SMS, email, whatever way you want to communicate to them. So they get notified and say, there's been an issue with your request. We'd like you to just upload a new document. Again, back to the resiliency of the model. They go back to Fidelity.com. They put in the updated document. It goes straight back to Fluxnova. So this is all digitized straight through. We don't have to interact here. Now the human is back in the loop again to say, okay, I see that there's been something updated. They're going to take a look at it. And in this case, they approve it. So now the final part of the process is to update all the systems of record. So again, all automated, hands off. We don't really need any more human interaction. I'm not sure how we're doing for time. I forgot to start the timer, but good. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I'll just mention one thing before we get into this slide. That concept of having a task manager queue within the Fluxnova platform is there. It's readily available. We see within Fidelity, for our big business units, they build that task management queue in their own. They build out their own UIs. They interface with the Fluxnova platform. So it allows them to do whatever way they want to do their task management, which is kind of important. It's very simple. What Fluxnova does is just claim it, and you can disposition it. But we do see BUs that are even within our own company that build out those UIs separately. I'm not going to spend too long on AI. I was here all day yesterday, and I need to go and learn a lot about MCP. It seems like it gets discussed everywhere, and there will be a discussion, I think, a little bit later today on AI. I would just simply say that Fluxnova and process orchestration is fairly deterministic. It handles deterministic paths, but it absolutely has the possibility to have some flexibility of dynamic decision making, right? So you could introduce agents in there. You can also get your human back in the loop to actually look to make sure that these agents are not doing anything you don't want them to do. You need to be careful. You don't want to make it easy for an agent to say, please change the beneficiary of Sean's retirement account to, I don't know, malicious @actor, right? So these are all the things you have to be a little bit careful of as these things get introduced. I would just say, Fluxnova will be investing in some potential AI integrations, like helping with dev assist, right? A little bit like Copilot does for writing normal code, and dynamic task routing. So there'll be some agentic ability to say it can make some decisions, but in the FinTech world, you probably, at least at the start, want to have a human reviewing everything that comes out of those decisions. And there'll be more on this today. I would say, Olivia, I know that FINOS are helping to form some working groups around this. So there will be working groups and there will be discussions in the maintainers calls, etc., about how this proceeds. Yeah. 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 So I won't talk anymore about FTC3, but yeah, that's something that's very, very interesting, I think. Yeah. Yeah. There's many applications, I suppose, right, for desktops. I'll just briefly touch on upgrading to Fluxnova. So if you're new to it, just go use it. JVM, just run it. I suppose where we're trying to help is if you're coming from Camunda 7 Community Edition as Fidelity Investments was, right? So we had using it in production for 6 or 7 years. So we've created migration tools at both the platform level and the model level. The platform level, you just update your dependencies and you update your dependencies, then you can have rewrite recipes that will change certain things within your, namespaces, etc. The same for the models, and will change the namespaces automatically. So I suppose the main point is that it really keeps it simple. You don't want to have dual running of platforms. So if you are coming from Camunda 7 Community Edition, you do the migration, you just go back and deploy it, and that's it. If you have to go make changes to those models in future, now you've already migrated the models, you just go change them, deploy them, and you keep moving. So that's important. So we want to keep that simple. Processes that are already deployed and in flight will continue to run, and data remains unchanged as far as databases. Very quick mention of the roadmap on the left-hand side there. Release 1 is already out there. It's public repos as of November 2025. Release 2 is more about TLM improvements around the actual process monitoring UI that's been rebuilt in the latest version of Angular, and that will be contributed back, and there'll be some more enterprise features in there. Release 3 is looking at, Olivier said, FTC3 and some other opportunities around that. I would also say really that, from a roadmap perspective, it's the beauty of open source, really. Innovation can happen organically. Join, shape that roadmap, contribute to it, build that roadmap, help build it, become maintainers, etc. So I don't want to go too far to the right. We're talking about maybe making the modeler a web solution. We've got dev assist tools on the AI side, lots of different ideas, but it's more indicative as you move to the right. That's it. I would say Fluxnova is more than just a platform. It really is a movement towards collaboration and process excellence. And if you have questions, I suppose there is a FINOS booth as well. You can ask me, of course, but there's a FINOS booth downstairs. Happy to discuss anything there. Thank you.